Hey, welcome to another episode of the Evolved Dad Shortcast. So, I want to take a step back in my journey of becoming an evolved dad. It involved a lot of frustration, a lot of uncertainty, anger, and disappointment. Knowing that I didn't necessarily have the time to be able to spend as much time as I wanted with my kids, knowing that I didn't necessarily have enough vacation days to take the vacations that I would like, knowing that I just didn't have the time in the day. I was busy and still am, but I just didn't have the time. I wanted to learn about how to be a dad, how to become a dad. What would it take? I couldn't find the time. And it was always an excuse of I'm busy. How am I supposed to do this? And it's true. I was and I am. That's just the reality. And it's very frustrating. It's something that took me quite some time to really work out and realize. To realize that we don't have the time, but we do. On a day to day basis, life is very busy. From getting the kids ready for school, if you're able to, or maybe you're leaving early in the morning, even before the kids are getting out to school. Busy work days, and then coming home late at night. Just rinse and repeat, doing it all over again. And if you take a step back and you just look at your day, you just want to throw your hands up and say, I can't do this. How am I supposed to make time when I don't have any? The truth is, that was probably the biggest part of my journey. The biggest part was realizing that, yeah, I don't have time, but I do have time. I don't have time, big picture, for what I want to do. Or I should say, really, not big picture, what I want to do. I'm not going to be able to have a marathon where it's going to be, over the next week, I'm just going to take in everything I can about being a dad and then move on from there. It's something that's going to take time for me to implement. And if anything, that's more important than just consuming everything and getting to that new level. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating because you want to get to that new point. You want to learn more about it, but you don't have the time to take in as much as you'd like, as quick as you'd like to. So I want to discuss that a little bit and explain what was so life changing from what I was able to finally figure out would take me the furthest and help me change the most with the least amount of time that I had. So, one thing that changed a lot was realizing that we have time for what we need time for, what we want to make time for. We choose every time we make a decision, we're saying yes to something and no to something else. So, realizing what am I listening to music or unhelpful podcasts where it's maybe just chit chat? Where am I spending time? Even little bits of time. We're talking maybe just a few minutes. It could be a short drive to a store. Maybe it's some other thing where you just have a few minutes. And now, granted, you can have that as downtime. But what's more valuable for you in the moment? Is it more valuable to have that downtime, to take a step back and chill? Or for you, is it more important to push yourself to grow? Push yourself to get those little tips on how to grow and to become a dad. And that's essentially the whole idea of this shortcast. The idea is that you have 10-minute episodes to be able to take concepts, ideas, to be able to implement them with short amounts of time, as opposed to a 2-hour episode where you maybe get an hour in and you just forget about it because you don't have the time. Take those small ideas, And that's what really changed a lot for me, because finding different ways where I could take hold of those few precious minutes, where maybe I was using it for something else that was more of a downtime, maybe a de-stressor, and shifting over my energy to saying, you know what, now's my time to be able to grow more. Yeah, it's not going to be perfect. You're not always going to get that downtime. But if the growth is more important than the downtime, in the long run, you're going to succeed. So that the first thing that was the big game changer for me. Once I got to that point where I was taking in all that information and I was learning new ideas, and some of the things I did take and some of the things I walked away from because I just didn't like them, I didn't appreciate them, or I didn't agree with them, I could start making use of those ideas and realizing that I'm not necessarily going to have the same time as other people would, and saying, okay, this is the reality of it, but how can I make use of these things? How can I start to implement them into my life? And once you start learning those little ideas, your brain reacts differently. When you look at a situation of how can I versus I can't, your brain starts to function differently. Your brain tries to find new ways to succeed at whatever you're looking at to do. How are you trying to grow? Maybe you want to spend more time with your kids because you want to have that interaction. You want to grow and create a bond. So, where do you have time? Maybe your only time is talking to your kids at night. Maybe you have 2 minutes to spend with them at night. Literally 2 minutes. Why throw that away? Instead of saying that's not enough time to create a bond, take advantage of that. Take advantage of those 2 minutes that you do have. Make the most of it. Start building that bond. Because, yeah, you may not have that time to spend 45 minutes, which is arguable if it's even going to be healthy for you to go from 0 to 45. But take that time and start building that bond. Take those few precious moments and make the most out of it. And the same thing is going to be with any relationship. The relationship with your wife. Take those few minutes that you can and take those and try to build on it. Take that little bit of time for yourself where you can just kick back a little bit and just breathe. Now, I know there's a lot of conflicting ideas over here. The idea is not for me to tell you how and what to do. The idea is for me to plant the seeds of new ideas. I want you to think about these concepts, realizing that there is an imbalance of taking care of yourself, taking care of the relationship with your wife, taking care of the relationship with your children, and growing all three together. And there's going to be failure, there's going to be pain, there's going to be downtimes, but there's going to be so much more upside. And all it takes is the focus and refocus of I want to grow. Not how can I, but I can grow. And then being able to take on those little moments. So yeah, there is no one size fits all, except when it comes to changing your thought process and how you talk. Changing the thought process of I can do it. And then yeah, taking it little step by little step. You want to run forward with it and just jump in and get it all done, but it doesn't work like that all the time. We can't always do that. Now, granted, maybe you'll find blocks of time where you could spend an hour at a time and really dive into things, and that's awesome. But make sure not to overwhelm yourself with those ideas either. Because just because we learn a lot doesn't mean we can implement a lot. And reading books is great, but if you're not going to implement anything that you learned, it's a waste. Books weren't meant to read. Books were meant to help you change your life, help you change your thought process. So realize that the most important thing that you can do is take control of those small moments and realize that you can. It's just going to take some time. As always, I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. This is Jonathan, the Evolved Dad, signing off.